Well, welcome. Do you know what time it is? I know I say it every time, but I'm coming to you tonight, and I'm telling you, this is a very special broadcast, unlike anything I've ever done before. I've done some exposés on the FBI and other organizations and tried to shine the light on darkness, but I'm telling you, this is real darkness. This is probably the biggest scandal I've ever covered as a broadcaster, and I was on talk radio for a dozen years. I had all kind of people on my program. I had presidential candidates and ambassadors from Israel. I mean, really, I had tons of different people on my show through the years. But this one tops them all. You want what? Listen, the Bible says in these last days are going to be perilous times, but it also says some other things that evil men will wax worse and worse, being deceived and deceiving others. We are in the middle of that right now. And I'm talking about 500,000 unaccompanied minors that have come across our borders in the last 3 years. 500,000 is the number. And we don't really have a good idea where all of them are. Hundreds of thousands. Now, I'm going to recommend something for you to do. It's important. Of course, go to the election. Of course, keep praying. Of course, reading your Bible. But this is even beyond. I'm telling you, you've got to see this movie. My whole family, most of my family, came to my house and we watched it last night. It's called A Line in the Sand by James O'Keefe. He's an investigative reporter. He's broken many stories about Planned Parenthood and other things, but this is his biggest. It's called A Line. It's about the situation at the border, the southern border, and the absolute crime that's going on, the billions of dollars being sneakily spent that you know nothing about because it's not being spent. It's being spent in bulk to Health and Human Services, but to all these NGO, these non-governmental organizations. And I'm telling you, it is a scandal beyond compare. Let's get into it first. I don't care if you have to get on Amazon Prime or Tucker Carlson has the film. You can Google it. A Line in the Sand. And you got to draw a line in the sand tonight. I'm telling you, it's your obligation to watch this movie. Our nation is, listen, I don't know why God hasn't destroyed the nation, to be honest. Because one thing he says he hates in Proverbs and many other places, he hates the shedding of innocent blood. I consider nothing more innocent than an unborn baby. But now, in mass, we are funneling these kids to people we don't even know, or either do the children. Let's get into this. First of all, James O'Keefe, great investigative reporter. He went on to take the trains that they take from central, Mexico and took it all the way to the border. He rode the trains with the people, found out a lot of things that were going on there and how really our border patrol are just overwhelmed and how all these people somehow have a destination they're going to. Like they're like pre-approved, yet they're still acting like they're sneaking in. It's crazy. And it's 15 to 20 million of them in the last 3 years. But and the falseness that goes on about it. And it's quite incredible what's going on. And they're being shipped and bussed and flown all over the United States, and none of them are being vetted. Do you understand? They don't know who they are. Maybe they have their name, a name they gave them. They don't have to have an ID. And they're Chinese, they're Russian, they're Arab, they're 120 nations. They're not just a Mexican coming with his family wanting a new life in America. That's the scenario they want you to believe. We're being invaded. I've told you that many times, but I never knew how much until I seen this movie. Now, let me talk about these children, though. Here's the biggest scandal about this, I think, what this movie brought forward. These NGOs that are funded by the government that are getting fabulously rich. And by the way, the drug cartels are running the border, period. There's no question about that. We have lost control. The drug cartels are running the routes to get there through Honduras, through all these countries, and they control the border. And they're paying off everybody. Okay, period. End of story. Now, these children are crossing about a mile away from the border at a place on the Rio Grande, and they're hooking up with people from Honduras, Panama, Guatemala. These adults that are acting like their parents or relatives. Some of them are just being escorted, and then what happens? I don't know. Then they're coming across. This Tara Rhodes was bringing this forward. She was being interviewed. She's from Health and Human Services. She's a whistleblower. She came forward. She couldn't do it anymore. She testified at Congress, blowing the whistle on what's really going on. And here's what's really going on. First of all, you've got these people making tons of money, these NGOs with these big compounds they're taking the children to, okay? And listen to this, Sunny Glen Children's Home. Doesn't that sound nice? Sunny Glen. Sounds like so happy. It's ran by New Day Resiliency Center in Royalville, Texas. They get $48 million from the government. $48 million, by the way. And by the way, in the last month, they had 5 reports of sexual abuse in their compound. But that doesn't stop anything, because here's the goal. They have to take those children into those compounds and actually try to get them out within 72 hours to some sponsor somewhere in America, because that's where they can get sued. If they keep them too long, that's where the lawsuits can happen. Once they turn them over, it's over, right? Out of their hands. And in that time, people are making billions and billions. Listen to me, not hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. I'm going to go through the numbers with you. The program I'm talking about is the Refugee Resettlement Agency. They're funded about $6 billion annually. $6 billion. Okay? They're handing over these people to the thing called sponsors. So they can, and they have to get them through there quick. So they're not being too choosy about it. Even parents that find out their kids are at these centers, and they're all over Texas and Oklahoma and California. If parents go there, they're given a hard time. They got to go through tons of red tape to get their own children. It's like they've lost the ability to be parents once they get into these facilities. And let me tell you about these sponsors. Now, if you're a foster parent in America, I want you to listen to this now. You have to prove your income, no criminal record. You got to pass some standards to be a foster parent in America. None of those questions are asked of sponsors. In fact, listen to this. They don't even have to prove they're here legally. They could be illegal aliens themselves in this country and still be a sponsor. I'm not making this up. It's happening. It's a matter of record. Here's another one of those NGOs that houses tens of thousands of these kids. By the way, they're called Hands of Healing in Southwest Key, El Paso, Texas. Okay? They have high walls. It looks like Fort Knox. They have 17 shelters in Texas, 8 in Arizona. I said Oklahoma, I'm sorry. 8 in Arizona and 2 in California. In 2024, you know what they were given by the government? $978 million. $1 billion. You know how much money they've gotten over the last few years? $3.2 billion. $3.2 billion. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors under 18, coming here, many of them unescorted, being ramshackled through these shelters and then handed over by transportation specialists. Oh, they got a lot of fancy names. Let me tell you about some of the money being made here, though. In that last little group I told you about, that gets $3.2 billion. The CEO makes over $1 million a year. $1 million a year. 4 of his top executives, here's their salaries. One makes $612,000. One guy makes $865,000. Oh, he's pushing up on the boss's CEO salary, isn't he? One guy makes $708,000. One lady makes $536,000. These are executives with this one company. Okay, the federal cap, by the way, for salaries is $187,000. That doesn't faze these guys. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's billions being spent. Listen, now there's they keep trying to arrest James Okiso. He's trying to ask questions, and he's going to all these facilities. It's a great, a line in the sand. You've got to watch the movie. Now we're in San Benito, Texas, by this Urban Strategies. They get $30 million. Yeah. And they're also protective of each other. They don't answer questions. James O'Keefe asking them questions. They're all ducking and diving. They won't answer any questions. They won't let him in the facilities. Everything's secret. MVM Incorporated. That's another big one, right? In the last 9 months, they got 129 million, and in the last year, $791 million overall they got from the United States government. These NGOs. They have transportation specialists. They're handing over children, right? And they're even accepting alternative IDs, whatever that means. What, a bus pass? No, I'm serious. I don't know what it is. They don't know what it is, but they were doing things they shouldn't. And they're handing over people where even some of the addresses have been flagged because of sexual abuse that happened in those addresses. Still handing over kids. Hundreds of thousands of children being handed over by these NGOs, and everybody's making a big buck. Their initiative, their incentive is this. They've got to keep this thing going. They got to get them through these things in 72 hours, and they don't care who they're handing them to. And if you think I'm overstating it, go watch the movie. He's got the documentation. He's there. He's asking questions. And these transportation specialists, please give me a break. They're handing over, maybe they're getting paid off. These kids are disappearing. I gave you that story a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, how a couple 100,000 are just, they don't know where they are. Children, underage children, you know they're being trafficked. You know they're being abused. And the American government is paying for this. Billions of dollars to these NGOs and handing over these kids to sponsors. And the corruption goes all over the board. The St. Paul's Episcopal Church in New York City, they're being run by another NGO called La Jornada, and they're giving you fake IDs. They're giving you false residency in New York, and you give them $500. They put through your asylum claim, another $600, and you get a work permit. Look at the money being made here is unbelievable across the board. Billions and billions of dollars being spent, and then when these people get to the cities and places to go, then they got to pick up the bill there. Look at New York and Boston. They're spending billions of dollars housing these people. And their crime is rampant. How many stories I got to tell you about murderers and rapists and home invasions and these organized crime, these transnational gangs coming through the border. But right now, my focus on these children. What are we going to do about these children? How can we sleep at night knowing about this going on? I'm telling you, this is the biggest scandal I've personally ever covered. And I've been in and around this stuff for, 18, 20 years. I'm telling you, this is a huge scandal. Children are being used as pawns, as profit, and everybody's getting rich off these people, off these kids, and they don't even know where they're being handed off to these sponsors. A line in the sand. Tonight, draw your line in the sand. Please commit to watch this movie. I don't care what you got to go on. Google it. You'll find it. Amazon Prime, Tucker Carlson. There's other platforms. I think Roku. You could find the movie. Line in the Sand, James O'Keefe. It'll change your life. And it'll make you want to do something about it. Call somebody. Call some lawmakers. Make some noise. Vote. Pray like you've not prayed before for these children. America is so ripe for judgment from God. Evil men are waxing worse, and they're deceiving you and being deceived. Evil is good. Good is evil. We're here. This is it. I pray you take this. This is a sign of the times, of the end days. Things are getting worse and worse. Morals, and that was one thing James O'Keefe said about this movie. He kept hoping he'd find somebody with some conscience, somebody with some integrity that would step forward and say something. He didn't find almost anybody to tell him anything. But he reported the story, and he was almost arrested several times. James O'Keefe, A Line in the Sand. Watch the movie. And please pray for Lisa and I. I'll tell you, I can tell we're handling some, let's say, some hot items now because there's things happening. That's right. Please pray for me and Lisa for our physical health and our protection. And I will sure appreciate it. We're going to be carrying much more coming up. The election's getting close. Lots of things are happening. I've got tons of stories I was going to give you, but this one trumped them all. This was it. I'm telling you, hundreds of thousands of kids are being dropped off to people they don't know, and they don't even know who they're giving them to. This is a scandal of our age, and God's not pleased with it, I can guarantee you. Anyway, until next time, I pray God keep you. I pray God bless you. But I also pray that this story doesn't pass you by like so many others. Like North Carolina is almost off the map now, and they're still struggling so terribly there. I hope this show doesn't do that. Go get the movie. Watch it online. A line in the sand. Draw your line tonight. Make a stand and pray to God. Ask for direction. Ask, Father, what can I do? What can I do to make a difference in my generation? And He'll tell you, and He'll open doors. Until next time, we'll see you here on Do You Know What Time It Is?